You were raised as a Mormon in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for all of your childhood and most of your young adulthood. How did your belief in God coexist with your predatory behavior?
More angst. But honestly, Matt, I could see through the facade of religion by those men, and they also represented a type of man I never wanted to be. So I also didn't care.
You're talking about the Mormon hierarchy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the bishops who would call you in and try to counsel you and things. It became more of a game of how could I charm them,
Yeah.
make them laugh,
Okay.
and manipulate them, rather than really caring about their opinion of me,
Yeah.
because I didn't think that they had anything to offer.
Okay. Because you perceive them as inauthentic?
Both inauthentic and I thought in my mind, I didn't know it, but I thought, you're just as evil as I am. It was just a natural thought. I thought, you're capable of doing what I'm doing. You're just trying to tell me I shouldn't be doing it because it's your job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was pretty cynical. I did meet a few leaders in the LDS church who were more authentic and seemed to be genuine men. And I did relate to them, but didn't usually trust any of them.
Okay. What did you mean by you sensed they were capable of being as evil as you?
I don't know. I believe that people are, I thought that the world was like me. And if I could look benevolent and good and kind and funny and charming,
Yeah.
and then behind the scenes go home and do whatever I was doing,
Yeah.
then I thought you're the same way. I just didn't think that they had any different in their makeup than I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you understand as sin at that time, and did it include causing harm to other people?
The Mormon church is good on teaching what you should do, but I never really embraced sin as being unkind or mean. I embraced sin always associated with sex.
Okay.
Or drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes, or alcohol.
Okay, so disobedience to Mormon rules was more sinful than hurting other people?
Oh, by far. Within the
Yeah.
Mormon church, yes, by far. Yeah.
Okay.
You would be, if you got in an argument with somebody, like, for instance, the Mormon church has basketball courts. They have fights in those things almost weekly between all the members. That's acceptable. Screaming, yelling, and they'll be like, well, he kind of lost his temper.
Okay.
Nothing there. But if somebody on that court went and said, yeah, I think the prophet's an idiot, gone, right? That would be a carnal sin.
Yeah.
So I could see that. So I didn't really embrace their view of sin, but I did feel guilty, a little bit guilty for my preoccupation with sex.
Okay.
The standard definition of the psychopath, the foundational definition, is somebody who doesn't have conscience. And it seemed that the rules of the Mormon church, and particularly as they apply to sexuality and sexual desire, those were things that you felt you had to follow as a young man, that you were within that system.
Yeah, and I think, John, since we talked last, I thought about that, and I really think that was because I was sexualized very, very early through a bunch of neighborhood experiences and familial experiences. And so I think because I was sexualized so early and was so interested in sexual things, that the LDS church's teachings were constantly hitting me on that note, because I knew on that note I had something that was off. And so I think that played into my just feeling badly about the sexuality, but not wanting to stop my ways. Wanting to, I should say, but not stopping my ways. Yeah.
I didn't fit the prototypical model in externally. I did. I looked like I do now. I looked like a missionary, and I obeyed the rules and I did everything I could. But inwardly, the way I explain it is I was a sinner. I love sin, and I loved women, and I love drugs, and I love getting high, and I love fighting, and I loved all these things of my flesh. And Mormonism didn't have the capacity to change me as a human being. Even though I went on the mission, married, did everything. Mormonism said, you do this and hey man, you're going to be okay. But inwardly, I knew I was a fake. I was a phony ass human being as a Mormon.
There are teachings in Mormonism about caring and loving other people. Why do you think Mormonism was unable to instill care and love in yourself for other people?
Well, today I see it as being impossible because their approach to it is through law, but that's a theological discussion. If we're just looking at pragmatics, I think that they are incapable of teaching of really instilling true love to another person because they use a counterfeit source to bring that into them. They use their rules.
Yeah.
They use obedience. For somebody like me, rules didn't mean anything and obedience meant less. So I was never going to become loving the way they wanted me to be, kind outwardly.
Yeah.
And then but I learned to be kind outwardly, but inside I didn't care.
Yeah.
So it was really a big conflict.
Okay. What did you mean by they used a counterfeit source?
Their counterfeit source, in my estimation today, having done what I've done in what I do, is that their source is their prophet would tell their people how to be good and right. And you do that by obeying their litany of rules. And so when I would apply those teachings, so to speak, they never worked with me. Just because they say, do this, do that, do this, and you are going to be okay, doesn't make you okay. And so I could see that. And so it failed me greatly. Any church, any religion working on someone like me at that time that says, do this, do that, and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
To a narcissist or to whatever I am or was, it means nothing. You know, it means absolutely nothing. There's no internal change.
Yeah.
It's external. And so I was just gone as a member of that church.
Yeah.
It works well for people who can be governed by rules, who have conscience,
Yeah.
and they think the prophet's telling them the truth on what they need to do to be holy. That might work,
Yeah.
but not for me.
Okay. And as a young child and young adult, did you believe 100% in Joseph Smith as the prophet?
A child, no, but I came to believe Joseph Smith as the prophet on the mission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever discuss your issues showing love and care for other people with figures in the LDS Church?
I tried with a few bishops to get deep.
Yeah.
No, they're not equipped. They don't know how to engage with somebody who is questioning about, well, why do we need to do this to be right with God? It's just do this and you'll be right with God.
Yeah.
Why is not a question you ask men who aren't trained.
Yeah.
They're just not equipped to handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Emmy Thomas, author of Sociopath Next Door, she is a practicing Mormon, and she describes the LDS Church as a sociopath's dream. It enabled her predatory behavior with a path to becoming God and providing her with people to prey upon, but it also restrained her, this behavior, with a set of rules and standards. For you, how much did the LDS Church restrain versus enable your predatory behavior?
It restrained only in the sense that I knew what I needed to do to get by and to get my way. So I could appear to be doing everything right, but it did nothing for changing me as a person. And when the rubber met the road, I would do what I would do, and nothing they were going to say would stop me unless what I did would cause me to be further alienated from the culture. So it was a game of manipulation and inauthenticity back and forth, which is why the self-harm increased.
Okay. And what level of power did you acquire in the LDS Church, and how did that affect you as a person?
So appealing to my charm and my abilities to communicate, I was raised to the highest level in the mission, assistant to the president, which is the highest missionary level, and I was that for 2/3 of my mission, which is usually because I was able to speak and be charming, and I played the rules. So then to answer the other side of that question, it was perfect because I could then be seen as the guy, and I was thinking I was the guy with my God complex. And it was all based on inauthentic expression. So it's kind of this perfect storm of craziness, but you don't realize that at the time. You actually think you're moving up in terms of God and his favor.
Okay.
In terms of, as an adult, I was in a bishopric, I was a seminary teacher several times, stake high council, and young men's, all of those things. But every time I got into those positions, the inauthentic life that those people were doing relative to the way I saw life became overwhelming. And I would almost always crumble, and I would always have to be released because I wasn't doing it the way they wanted.
Okay. And at the time, did you see the LDS Church as a hunting ground for prey, or did that come later?
I saw the hunting ground. Oh my gosh. It was like a fruit market, and I had a basket when we were kids, because you're 13 to 18, you go to a stake dance, you know Mormon doctrine, you use that to your benefit to get girls. And they are so naive, you know, and good. They really want to be good, and I really mean that. That they will buy into the lies of, I feel like I knew you before. And to them, it's like, bing, bing, bing. Maybe this is the one, you know, and they're all of 16 years old. So I could use the doctrine and the ways that they taught things to my advantage to have all the sexual dalliances that I wanted.
Okay. Where does this naivety that you find among Mormons, where does it come from, do you think?
I think it comes from the top-down authoritarian. We know the truth. You don't have to think. You know, Boyd K. Packer, LDS Apostle, when the brethren have spoken, the thinking is done. And so when you live by that and you don't ever learn to think, you are like a lamb to the slaughter. It's easy to manipulate those people. And that's why I think in Mormonism there is so much business larceny and all this, because they're all taking those poor people who are just trusting men and saying, you know, hey, here's this new London Bridge we want to sell you. Are you interested? And they're like, yeah. I'm not making fun of them. I love them as a people. I really do. And they mean, so many of them mean well. But those idiots who are underneath the veneer of Mormonism, man, they're there and they are bad. And I think it's in the leadership too.
Okay. How much causality do you attribute to your childhood upbringing versus the LDS Church for helping form your sociopathic and predatory
kind of a
traits?
Marriage?
Okay.
Kind of a marriage. I think the Mormon Church helped me be an acceptable narcissist rather than a obviously malignant narcissist. Had my parents not joined the church, and they joined it so that their children could have some foundation from their East Los Angeles upbringing, they wanted the church to take over and give us structure. So because of that decision, I was able to learn how to be a better predator than a one that was like headed for jail immediately by the time you're in your teens.
Okay.